The road at night, they say some roads remember. I never believed it, until that night. Rain hammered the windshield, wipers beating time. It was close to midnight, and I was driving the stretch I had sworn never to touch again. 10 years earlier, my son Aaron had died on this very road. Since then, I'd taken every detour possible. But that night, there was no choice. The 2-lane asphalt was empty, lined with black trees leaning over like witnesses. My headlights cut only a narrow tunnel. Every bend looked like it wanted me gone. Then I saw him, a figure at the side of the road, one arm raised. Not waving, just holding up a hand as if asking a question. Rain plastered a hoodie to his thin frame. A backpack slouched from one shoulder. My stomach dropped. I should have kept going. Midnight hitchhikers are warnings, not passengers. But something about the way he stood, silent, soaked, waiting, pulled me to the shoulder. The boy opened the passenger door carefully, like it belonged to someone else. Cold rushed in with him. He sat with his backpack on his knees, arms tight around it. Water dripped onto the mat. "Thanks," he said softly. "Where you headed?" I asked, forcing casual. "Next town. Past the river." His voice, it was quiet, almost too quiet. But it tugged at something in me. Familiar. We drove. The rain thickened, the road slick and restless. I tried to focus on the lines, the bends, anything but the boy's silence. My hands gripped the wheel harder than they needed to. Then the radio clicked on by itself. Static. And through it, just a few notes of a song. A song Aaron used to play on his guitar, over and over, until the strings wore thin. My chest tightened. The boy looked at the dash. "I used to love this song," he whispered. A chill ran through me. I hadn't touched the radio. That station hadn't worked for years. I dared a glance at him. Water ran down his cheek like sweat. His eyes, shadowed by the hood, looked out the window as if the world outside were more important than me. For a moment, just a flicker, in the rearview mirror, his face wasn't his. It was Aaron's. I blinked, my pulse racing, and the mirror showed only the boy again. "Careful," he murmured suddenly, just as the car drifted toward the ditch. I jerked the wheel, heart hammering. "Thanks," I said through clenched teeth. He didn't answer. The rain kept beating, the road kept curving, and I kept driving with a stranger whose voice, whose face, and whose silence all belonged to someone I had buried a decade ago. And I knew, deep down, the road had just remembered me. The boy sat silent, arms wrapped around his backpack. His wet hoodie dripped onto the floor mat, darkening the fabric like ink spreading through paper. I tried to break the quiet. "Been out long?" "Long enough," he said, without looking at me. I nodded, pretending that answer made sense. His voice was strange, soft, steady, almost too calm for someone stranded in the storm. We passed the stretch where the asphalt always slants toward the ditch. My hands corrected without thought, like they had a memory of their own. The radio, still off, crackled again. More static, then, clear as breath, Aaron's favorite song. The exact chord progression, every note in the right place. My chest tightened. The boy whispered, "This one always stuck with me." I gripped the wheel so hard my knuckles ached. "Funny. My son used to play it." He turned, finally meeting my eyes. A small scar on his jaw caught the glow from the dash. His expression was unreadable, but something in his gaze pushed air out of my lungs. "What happened to him?" he asked, The question hit like a blade. My throat dried. He didn't make it. Not on this road. Silence. He nodded once, slowly, as though he already knew the answer. I forced myself to glance at the mirror. For a heartbeat, Aaron's face stared back at me, hair damp, grin wide, alive. I blinked, and it was gone. Only the boy remained, watching me from the corner of his eye. Sometimes roads don't forget, he murmured. I swallowed hard. What's that supposed to mean? But he didn't answer. The rain thickened, slashing sideways across the windshield. I slowed. The boy shifted slightly, leaning against the window, his reflection pale and blurred. Where exactly past the river? I asked. There's a crossroads, he said. You'll know it when you see it. A chill crawled down my spine. There was only one crossroad past that river. The same place I had avoided for a decade. The place where Aaron's life ended. My palms dampened against the wheel. The heater hummed, fighting the cold, but my bones stayed frozen. The boy's voice came again, almost a whisper. That's where it ended for me too. I snapped my head toward him, but his face was hidden in shadow. He didn't move, didn't blink, just stared into the storm. The wipers clapped their rhythm. The engine hummed. But inside the car, it felt like time itself had stopped. I wanted to pull over, to let him out, to escape. But my hands stayed locked on the wheel, as if some invisible grip held me steady. And the road kept leading me forward, toward the river, toward the crossroads, and toward a truth I wasn't ready to face. By the time I got home, the storm had eased. But the air was still heavy, like the world hadn't finished what it started. The porch light flickered as I unlocked the door. Inside, the house greeted me with silence. No TV, no music, just the low hum of the refrigerator. I kicked off my wet shoes and stood there, waiting for normal sounds to prove the world was still ordinary. None came. I went to the kitchen. That's when I saw it. A note stuck under the old bulldog magnet on the fridge. Paper yellowed, writing faint but sharp enough to wound. If I don't make it, he'll find my way back to you. My chest froze. I knew those words. Aaron had written something almost the same years ago. But this note hadn't been here when I left. I lifted it with trembling hands. The back was clean, no tape, no glue, no reason for it to appear out of nowhere. The phone on the counter lit up. One new voicemail. Caller ID. Unknown. I pressed play. Static. Rain. Then a breath. And a voice. Hey, Dad. I nearly dropped the phone. The voice was his. My son's. 10 years gone, yet it was him. The way he used to call from the other room when dinner was ready. Silence followed. Then, "I'm close." Click. The message ended. I staggered back, staring at the phone as if it had teeth. My throat was dry, my body cold. This couldn't be real. Someone was playing with me. But who could imitate his voice like that? Who would even try? I went to the living room, desperate for distraction. The family photos lined the mantel. Aaron smiling in his graduation cap, Aaron as a kid holding a paper medal. I stared until the pictures seemed to breathe. Then the TV screen flickered. Static shimmered across the dark glass even though it wasn't on. And in that reflection, just for a second, I saw movement in the hallway. A boy's shadow. Backpack over one shoulder. Walking the way Aaron used to walk when he was late for dinner. I spun around. The hallway was empty. Only the dim light and the sound of my pulse pounding in my ears. Slowly, I turned back to the TV. The static was gone. Just a dead black screen showing my pale face. Behind me, the mirror in the hall caught my reflection. I stepped closer. My own face stared back, tired, haunted. And then, beside it, another reflection appeared. A boy. Hoodie damp, eyes sad, watching me. I spun again. Nothing there. The mirror stayed empty. But I knew then, he hadn't just found me on the road. He had followed me home. The next day I couldn't sit still. The note, the voicemail, the shadow in the mirror, they pressed on me like hands on my chest. Finally, I gave up pretending. I grabbed my keys and went back to the road. The sky was heavy, the kinda gray that waits for mistakes. I drove in silence. The radio stayed dead, but I felt every mile pulling me closer to something I didn't want and couldn't avoid. When the bridge appeared, my grip tightened. Halfway across, the steering wheel tugged right, like it always did. For years I had fought that pull. But this time, another voice whispered from the back seat, "Now." I corrected just as a semi roared from the opposite side. Its trailer swayed across the line, huge and merciless. For a heartbeat, I saw the metal wall where my headlights should be. 1 inch slower and the river Woodvay swallowed me whole. The truck thundered past, horn screaming, water spraying against my windshield. My chest locked, my hands shook, but I was alive. Only alive because of that single word. I glanced at the mirror. The back seat was empty. But in the small convex reflection I'd bought at the country store, a boy sat with his backpack, watching me. Aaron. I didn't blink. I didn't dare. Why? I whispered. His lips moved, but no sound came. Then the radio hissed to life, spitting out the same old guitar chords, the same song he'd played 1,000 times at home. Tears blurred my sight. I forced the car to the shoulder near the crossroad. Gravel crackled beneath the tires. That crossroad, the one I had avoided for 10 years, stretched before me, empty and ordinary. But to me it was a scar carved into the earth. The place where he never came back. I stepped out. The air reeked of wet grass and river water. The post leaned, its paint peeling. I stood where the old memorial used to be, where flowers once withered, where I had stood too many nights asking questions no one answered. The reeds whispered. The river growled. And then, from the car behind me, the door clicked shut, soft as a thank you. I turned. Nothing. But in the mirror on the dash, I saw him. Sitting in the back seat, smiling the way he used to smile when he wanted me to notice a joke he wasn't brave enough to tell. This is where it ended for me, his voice echoed inside my head. I swallowed hard, my chest breaking. Then tell me, what do I do now? The boy's reflection tilted his head. The smile faded. His lips formed the words I couldn't ignore. I drove home with the weight of his words pressing on me. Let go. They echoed louder than the horn of that semi, louder than the rain on the roof. At the house, everything looked the same. The porch light, the old fridge hum, the photographs on the mantel. But nothing felt the same. The air was heavier. The silence listened. I pulled the guitar pick from my pocket, the one I had found by the river. White plastic, worn smooth by nervous fingers. His fingers. I set it on the table and stared at it until my eyes burned. The phone buzzed. Another voicemail. Unknown. My hand shook as I pressed play. Static. Rain. Then his voice again, closer this time. Dad, you can't keep driving me. You can't live on this road forever. My breath caught. The room tilted. I had my ending, he said. You don't have to keep reliving it. Stop carrying me like a destination. Let me be what I was. And let yourself go on. The message cut. Silence swallowed the kitchen. My knees nearly buckled. I opened the closet, pulled down the shoebox that had sat there for years. Inside, programs from his funeral, old photos, scraps of paper with his handwriting. At the bottom, his blue notebook. I hadn't touched it in a decade. I flipped it open. My eyes froze. On one page, written in his rough hand, "If something happens, you'll find my way back. But only to remind you, don't get stuck on the road. It's not a person, and I'm not a road." My throat tightened. The exact same words I had heard in the car, at the crossroad. He had written them before he died. The mirror in the hallway caught me as I staggered past. My reflection stared back, pale, shaking. And behind me, just for a breath, I saw him. Aaron, sitting on the floor, strumming an invisible guitar, smiling like the world was still his. "Son," I whispered. His eyes lifted to mine in the glass. And then he was gone. The house hummed again, as if relieved. I pressed my palms to the mirror, forehead against the cool surface. "I hear you," I said. "I'll try." The silence answered with peace instead of fear. For the first time in 10 years, I believed him. Days passed, but something inside me had shifted. The road was still there, the bridge still pulled to the right, the crossroads still waited with its broken sign, but they didn't own me anymore. I could drive without drowning. At night, though, the house still whispered. Sometimes the hall mirror fogged faintly, as if someone had leaned too close. Sometimes the radio clicked alive for a heartbeat, a single guitar chord escaping before silence shut it again. One evening, I sat at the kitchen table with the guitar pick between my fingers. It felt lighter now, less like a chain, more like a memory I was allowed to keep. The phone lit. Another voicemail. Unknown. I pressed play. Static. Rain. Then his voice. Soft, steady, at peace. "Hey, Dad. You can let go now. I'll find my own way home." The message ended. No click. No fade. Just gone. Tears blurred the room. Not the tears of 10 years ago, sharp and heavy, but a quiet kind, the kind that washed instead of drowned. I walked to the porch and turned off the light. For the first time in a decade, I wasn't afraid of the dark. The night wasn't an enemy, it was simply the rest of the world, waiting. In the window of the parked car, a reflection caught me. For a second, in the curve of glass, he was there. Aaron, sitting in the back seat, backpack on his knees, eyes gentle. He didn't wave. He didn't need to. I blinked, and he was gone. The car was only a car again. The road beyond was only asphalt. But I understood now, some roads remember, and some suns find their way back, not to stay, but to set you free. I closed the door behind me. "Good night, son," I whispered. The house kept my words, the way houses always do. Let go.